Some of these classes, I just don't see, I can't bring myself to take like municipal water and wastewater systems. I cannot imagine sitting through that for 3 hours. Wow, time really came by.
It's,
Each little bell to ring.
I know.
It's like the cattle to come in.
Councilman Estes. Councilman Estes. Okay. I know it. We'll call to order the City of Douglasville City Council Legislative Work Session for tonight, which is March 3rd. Our invocation will be done by Pastor Henry Greenridge of the Trinity World Christian Center, and after that, we'll have the Pledge of Allegiance, which will be led by the Mayor Pro Tem. Please stand for the invocation.
Good evening. Before I leave home, I like to check in with my wife on what I'm wearing. Noticing my kente cloth, she said, "Black History was last month." I said, "Yes, but the last time I looked in the mirror, I'm still black. And I have plenty of history to celebrate, so I choose to wear this." So this evening, I leave you with a thought and invocation about choices. The choices we make about food and exercise influence our physical health. The choices we make about how to respond to life's adversities affect our psychological well-being. And the choices we make about self-improvement direct the very course of our lives. That is the power of choice. I realize that awareness of your ability to choose is paramount. To tap into the power of choice, you must pay attention to your choices. There are the 3 C's of life: choices, chances, and change. As a city council, you will be making decisions, choices about how to spend money, what policies to enact, what initiatives to approve. May you be governed by the principles of love, compassion, and justice for all of our citizens. Finally, a thought from my mother about everyone's need to be able to choose, especially at dinner time. She said many times, "You have 2 choices. You can either take it or leave it." My prayer is that as council members, you will take the road less traveled based on love, compassion, and righteousness. And let all God's people say, amen. Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you so much, Mayor Pro Tem, for leading us in the Pledge of Allegiance, and Pastor Greenidge for giving us a parable like Jesus. So now we'll move on with our announcements and presentations. I'd like to welcome you to the City of Douglasville City Council Legislative Work Session. This is a work session where agenda items are presented for discussion, and no official action will be taken on these items. Official action will be taken on these items discussed tonight on next Monday at 6 p.m. If the business you're here for is not listed as an agenda item, there will be ample time under the agenda item comments from Citizens and Delegates section for you to discuss your business. I'll go over a few protocol issues, and then we can get on with the agenda. And the agenda is printed outside, paper agendas, or you can follow us along virtually with the screen. The agenda's on the screen. Will ask you to please keep your comments and presentations on a professional level, dealing with the facts that are important for this governing body to make our decisions. We will not accept comments that are considered by the chair to be of a personal attack on any individual or group of individuals. You will receive a warning from the chair, and if you deviate from this requirement, a second deviation will result in you discontinuing to speak. We'll turn your microphone off. Only one person speaking at a time. Please do not applaud or react to speakers or speak to each other in the audience when you are at the podium. Remind you that we're only required to accept public comments during required public hearings. If you have a cell phone or electronic device, I'd ask that you would please put those in silent mode so they will not be disruptive during the meeting, or turn those off until the meeting is over. The agenda items will be handled the following. The committee chairperson will read the agenda item, then that person or a representative or an applicant will come forward and give their presentation. Myself and council members will possibly ask questions to help us understand the item further. The committee chairperson will ask for comments or statements from the audience if it's a public hearing. For those that have 20 minutes for those in support of the item, and 20 minutes for those in opposition. And each person has 3 minutes to speak. There is a speaker card. They're outside on the desk. If you'd like to speak, we ask that you please fill that speaker card out, bring it forward to the city clerk, Ms. Vicki Acker to my right, and hand it to her, and then come to the podium and give us your name and address for the record. And then you'll have 3 minutes to bring your concern or comment to myself and council members. Each person has only one opportunity to speak. This is not a question and answer format or debate. We're just here to hear the information, take it in, deliberate, and make a decision that we'll be able to do on Monday. Our policy is if you have any printed material, that you would please give that printed material to Ms. Acker, the city clerk. She will make copies and distribute the information to the council members and myself. So those are all the instructions for the meeting tonight, and we will get on with the meeting as it is printed on the agenda. I'll move on through our committees. Our first committee is Economic Development Committee, and that's chaired by Mayor Pro Tem, Councilmember Terry Miller.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. We have no business at this time under the Economic Development Committee.
Thank you, sir. We'll move on to the next committee, which is Finance Committee. That's chaired by Councilmember Mark Adams.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Madam Mayor, Finance has no business tonight.
Thank you, sir. We'll move on then to Housing and Community Affairs Committee. That's chaired by Councilmember Dr. LaShun Danley.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. We have no business tonight under Housing and Community Affairs.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Going to Legislative and Intergovernmental Committee, I'll ask Mayor Pro Tem Terry Miller if you would please take that.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. We have no business under the Legislative and Intergovernmental Committee at this time.
Thank you, sir. Personnel and Organization Committee, chaired by Councilmember Chris Watts.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. We have one item tonight.
Yes.
Item A, to adopt an ordinance to amend Chapter 6 of the City of Douglasville Personnel Policies and Procedures to provide for the probationary period of newly hired non-certified police officers, and Mr. Westfield will handle this.
Dr. Bryan Westfiel, 6695 Church Street, 30134. Good afternoon, Madam Mayor and council members. I'm here to present information from Chapter 6 of the Personnel Policies and Procedures concerning probationary employees, specifically newly hired non-certified police officers. This amendment extends the probation period for non-certified police officers with respect to their academy training and FTO. The police academy is 10 weeks and 1 day. The field training is 12 weeks. So that's 5.5 months spent in that training capacity. The current probationary period for non-certified officers is 12 months. This amendment, if approved, will move the probationary period from 12 to 18 months. Chief Sparks, I'm not sure if there's anything you wanted to add.
18 months, it will give us the time to, we hire someone in, non-certified. We hire them in, we usually bring them in a couple of weeks to get them familiarized with our SOP policies and get them to take information that they have to have before they go to the academy. So we'll bring them in like a couple of weeks and we'll train them on firearm training, train them on driving a motor vehicle, because those are two high-risk situations where we find out that most of our new people fail. So we bring them in, get them qualified with the weapon and all that. So then they go to the academy. And then once they get out of the academy, and then they come to the FTO program, field training program. And then that field training program is probably like 13 to 14 weeks. So 18 months will give us an opportunity to see if a person gonna make it or not. Because we have had to let go of some people that were in the academy, that they couldn't make it. So 18 months is a good sounding area for us to make that determination on our non-certified officers.
Dr. Westfiel, did you have more, or?
No.
Okay.
Subject to your questions, that's all I had. I
Okay.
just wanted to give the chief a moment to.
Chief, I just had one, and then I'll open it up. Not that it matters, because 18 months works for
Yes.
us, and that's fine, but how does that compare to other departments?
About the same.
About the same?
Yes, but it's about the same, because, you know, a new person coming in, they on like a contract for about 2 years anyway. You know, they got, if we hire them in, they gotta work with us before they go to another agency. If they go to another agency, that agency got to pay us.
Okay.
You know, that keep officers from coming in, we done put that money into them, now they jump over there to the cab, you know, so the state brought that in. So that 18 months it's conducive to a lot of other agencies. Okay. But we, due the time that we've been doing this is what we found out that worked best for us. It's just through trial and error and seeing from our development and seeing how most of the people that first coming into law enforcement, how they paying out. So.
Okay. Thank you, Chief. Any questions? Mayor, we'll go with Mayor first, and then followed by Mayor Pro Tem.
Thank you so much, Coach Watts. Thanks, Chief, for the update or more information, and Dr. Westfield. I just wanted to confirm, I think that is adequate time. I know the fire department and the fire chief is here. It's 2 years, isn't it, Fire Chief, for those new recruits, because my son's in this class, so they have to go 2 years without, to the requirement. They sign a contract in the beginning, and if they fail out of the class or do something else, they have to pay the money back.
Yeah, if they fill out the pay, we don't make them pay no money back like that fire department.
That's a lot of equipment in the fire
Yeah, that's a
department.
lot, but that's what we found out, that we, that 18 months, and then if they need some more time, then we can extend, because we're doing an extension with one of our officers now. Because some of them don't catch on, but they're not to the point that I need to fire them.
Yeah, they're not a bolo.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, so we're trying to work with them, because we short about, around about 16, 17 officers.
Yeah, the sheriff says they're short 60.
Yeah.
So, yes, sir, that's all I had, Mr.
Mayor
Chairman.
Pro
Thank you.
Tem. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Chief, does the clock start the moment you hire them, or is it after the training is?
Start time when we hire them.
That's, okay.
That the clock start ticking as soon as we bring them in, and I give them a job offer, and clock start right there.
Okay.
Because like I said, we'll bring them in about, usually about 2 weeks to 3 weeks prior to their academy start, because we have to wait until academy start. So we have to, we are held up because academies, they're not starting every other week. So,
But that counts toward the 18 months, so the few
Right,
weeks
yes, yes, sir.
before they start training there too.
Yes.
Okay. And then you own the contract for the 2 years, so it's like it's the Bobby Bonilla deal, right? Where that you.
Bobby Bonilla, he's still getting paid, isn't he?
I think the Mets are still paying for him right
Yeah.
right now. Okay.
Yeah, if I could, to Chief's point, I think we have officers graduating on the 18th of March, and the next academy starts the 15th of April.
Question, thank you, Chief. Your observation and your recommendations are always great, I think. What happens if you have an officer that is in training and they do not, they're not successful in the academy?
Terminated.
Okay, so that's in the contract immediately, it's they're terminated?
Yes, well, when they're in the academy, they're on probation anyway.
Right.
So you could terminate for, for cause, but if they're not doing what they need to do in the academy, they can't get to the academy on time, how do they gonna come to work for me on time? So all of that is a process of evaluations. So usually I'll call them in and I'll let them resign in lieu of termination. Yes, ma'am.
Yeah, I think the 18 months is a really good work, and it's a pretty good time for you to evaluate and see.
Because you gotta look at, you hire a new officer, and Chief back there, you could verify that. Usually, you start getting your bang for your money probably about 3.5 years. Because they got to get out there and understand the ropes, have to apply what they've learned to real life situations.
Right.
And some of them may be a little slowful on getting there. Law enforcement is ever changing. So, it's a lot going on, and we try to move them along as quickly as possible, but not too fast so they can't learn.
Right. Very good. Thank you. I don't have any other questions.
Anyone else? If it would be all right with council, I'd like to place this on the consent agenda for Monday. Thank you, Dr. Westfield. Thank you, Chief.
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Madam Mayor, that's all I had tonight under personnel and organization.
Thank you so much, Coach, and thank you, Dr. Westfield and Chief Sparks. We appreciate your input. Planning and Development Committee, that's chaired by Councilmember Mark Adams.
Thank you, Madam Mayor.
You're welcome.
We have several items tonight under planning and zoning. Item A, hold a public hearing and consider a request for a special land use permit for a medical laboratory on property zone PUD, being approximately 1.33 acres at 3150 Golf Ridge Boulevard, land lot 57, District 1, Section 5, parcel 58. Parcel ID number is 00570150058. Application by E Green Enterprises Incorporated, care of Eddie Swaggart Green. Mr. Anderson?
Okay, Ryan Anderson, 6701 Church Street. The applicant is seeking a slot for a medical laboratory. The subject property is located within an existing office park. The property is zoned PUD with a base zone of GC. A medical laboratory is permitted with an approved special land use permit. The medical laboratory has not impeded the normal and orderly development and improvement of the surrounding properties. The use does not involve a high volume of traffic based on acceptable industry standards. The applicant received a temporary land use permit and temporary business registration from City Council in December 2021 to operate a medical laboratory. The medical laboratory has been in business for several months now and has not been a detriment to the surrounding community and has been a good corporate citizen. Section 2654 of the City Code of Ordinance states that any temporary registration granted by the council shall be good for a period not to exceed 90 days, and temporary registration shall not be subject to renewal by the City Council. The applicant's temporary business registration is slated to expire on or around March 21st, 2022. Section 120D of the UDO sets the standards for special use approval. A special use otherwise permitted within its zoning district shall be considered to be compatible with other uses permitted in the district, provided that due consideration is given to the following objective criteria in the staff analysis as applicable to the specific use provided. Also, council is given the opportunity to consider the compatibility of the use with the surrounding uses to ensure consistency with the character of the area and to minimize impact. And recommending approval of an application for a special land use permit, the City Council may find, based upon evidence and testimony presented at the hearing, the following conditions have been met. The use of the property as a medical laboratory is allowable as a use by review in a PUD district with an approved slot. The applicant has satisfied this criteria. The use will not substantially modify the land use plan or the intent, purpose, or spirit of the code of the City of Douglasville. The applicant has satisfied this criteria. The use will not negatively impact surrounding properties. The applicant has satisfied this criteria. The special land use permit will not adversely affect the public health, safety, or welfare. The applicant has satisfied this criteria. Staff recommends approval of the special land use permit.
Thank you, Mr. Anderson. This being a public hearing, we need to give opportunity of the applicant to come forward if they're with us tonight and make any statement, and then we will give opportunity for anyone that would like to speak either for or against. I'll ask a question as the applicant, it appears, is coming forward. Mr. Anderson, is there a time frame? It appears that the owner of the business is leasing space in one of the office buildings there. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay, so is there a time frame that we want this to run?
The temporary business registration is good for, city code sets 90-day time frame, and hers was approved in December, like December the 18th. So her time is about to expire. And the reason it didn't get approved last month because the planning commission was postponed.
Yes, sir. My question is, how long, if we consider approval of this, how long would we run this? Would we run it concurrent with the lease? Would we run it a set period of time or indefinitely?
In perpetuity, we didn't set any conditions. I mean, you have the opportunity to do that now.
I would assume that it would need to coincide with the lease because a new tenant may, in that same location, would not necessarily need a special land use permit.
Yes, you have the right to set that condition.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Thank you. Come forward, ma'am. Give us your name and address for the record, and we'd love to hear from you.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Madam Mayor, council members. Edie Swagger Green, 5072 Chapel Lake Circle, Douglasville.
Thank you. Ms. Green, I apologize. I said Eddie. I apologize. It's Edie, and it's my fault. I apologize. Do you have anything you'd like to add to the information Mr. Anderson has given us?
Other than it is a 10-year lease, so that would be great if it ran for that length of time. And I am up and running, and things are going well. So I want to thank you for the temporary.
Glad to hear it. So you got everything worked out with the landlord, and everything's moving forward, and you've been there about almost 90 days.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Thank you. Questions, council? Madam Mayor? Yes, Madam Mayor, go ahead.
I do have a question. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So, Green, you said it's 10, TEN, 10 years?
10 years, ma'am.
What? You going to do it for 10 years?
You want me
Your
to
grandchildren going to be, I thought this was just like a gig to stay with the grandchildren. No,
in 10 years, I'm going to be retired.
You're going to be retired.
Yes,
okay.
ma'am.
You going to go back to pharmacy, or you just going to?
I'm going to fit pharmacy in.
Okay.
But I'm not looking back. No, ma'am.
I know Walgreens, we miss you over at Walgreens. Okay, thank you. That's all I have, Mr. Chairman.
Others? Anyone, council? Okay. We need to give opportunity for anyone that might have attended tonight to speak either for or against this petition. Is there anyone here that would like to speak either for or against this application? Seeing none, we will close that portion of the public hearing then, and if you will come back on Monday, we will vote upon this. Thank you very much, ma'am. We'll go on to item B, hold a public hearing and consider a request for a variance to reduce the required 15-foot side setback in section 408B of the Unified Development Ordinance for a variance of 11 feet 6 inches for a remaining requirement of 3 feet 6 inches on the northeast corner of a lot, 1.12 acres at the intersection of Highway 92 and Durley Lane, 5861 and 5871 Fairburn Road, land lot 52, District 1, Section 5, parcels 2 and 12. Parcel ID numbers 00520, 150012 and 00520150002. Application by Charlie Tarwater, care of Quick Trip Corporation. Mr. Anderson.
Ryan Anderson, 6701 Church Street. The applicant is proposing a new 5,312 square feet quick trip facility with 8 pumps and ingress and egress off of both Highway 92 and Durley Lane. There are special conditions and circumstances related to size and shape that exist which are peculiar to the subject property that may affect the applicant's ability to develop the property as desired. The subject property is shallow and has a sloping topography running from the northwest corner to the entrance to the bank off Durley Lane, downwards to the southeast corner of the lot for a total height difference of roughly 11 feet to the old entrance where the oil change facility is located. The development constraints, such as the narrowness, shallowness, and sloping topography, all affect the applicant's ability to develop the lot and has caused the need for the applicant to request variances from the side setback. The actions and circumstances do not stem from the applicant's own actions. The conditions were existing upon the property before the applicant purchased the land. Strict application of the UDO would require the applicant to decrease the amount of space in the drive aisles between the parking lot and the store, and it would also reduce the dimensions between the fuel canopy and the curb of the northern property line. This option will result in increased congestion around the lot and the fuel islands, therefore increasing customer or employee danger as they traverse the lot due to the narrow traffic lanes across the site. A portion of the property was taken by GOT as part of the Highway 92 expansion plans. As a result of this, it has further narrowed the property's depth and made the property less desirable as it is harder to redevelop. The applicant sees this location as favorable due to traffic patterns. The applicant has the option to purchase the two parcels of lands, and due to their size, otherwise will not be able to be redeveloped into another use. The proposed variance will not affect the essential character of the neighborhood and will have a minimal effect. The subject property is located within a commercial corridor, which will be improved with a new Quick Trip retail store. The proposed development would also require future approval of a combination plat from Mayor Council. The applicant is proposing to combine two unusually small lots. The applicant will take an existing former bank, and oil change facility and demolish the structures and replace them with a nationally known retail store. The public benefit of granting a variance outweighs the harms of the requested relief. Finally, there are extraordinary and exceptional conditions pertaining to the subject property, such as unusually small size, shape, and topography. The need to combine the subject properties and access issues. Furthermore, portions of the property were taken by DOT for 45 road improvements. The existing conditions have a drastic impact on the applicant's ability to develop the subject property in conformance with the current zoning regulations. As a result, relief is warranted.
Thank you, Mr. Anderson. Is the a representative of the applicant present with us? If so,
yes, he's here.
I'd like to come forward and make any statement. If you give us your name and address for the record, and then we'd love to hear from you.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Charlie Tarwater, 952 Old Peachtree Road, Northwest, Lawrenceville, Georgia, 30045. Mr. Anderson did a great job summing up the issue that we are facing on this lot. This variance request really stems from the fact that we want to minimize semi and auto traffic with the fuel deliveries, as well as the merchandise trucks that will have to come and make that narrow turn to get in. So we are just trying to minimize customer and employee interaction with the large trucks that sometimes don't have great sight lines, making tight turns around canopies, buildings, and then getting back onto either Durley Lane or Highway 92.
Thank you, Mr. Tarwater. I will say I'm a fan of Quick Trip. I trade at the Chapel Hill Road rather regularly.
We appreciate that.
So long as I can afford the fuel. But regardless of that, just a couple of questions, and I want to make sure that anyone else gets the opportunity. I believe it says the variance would be at the side setback 15 feet. Okay, if just for, in layman's terms, tell us where that is on the property so that, is it what is in red under landscape setback in question?
That's correct, yeah. So it's actually in the rear. It's in between the hotel and where the old bank exit would be.
Yes.
And that is most likely where the fuel tankers will be delivering due to the canopy being right there. So we're
Gotcha.
trying to make sure the canopy, or the truck can make the full circle around the canopy without having to potentially roll into the curb or landscaping or anything else like that to get out of car's way or vice versa.
So the variance then would basically be for the setback between two commercial zone properties.
That's correct.
In other words, your setback closer to your property line where you would abut the property line of the hotel behind you.
That's correct.
Okay. And so if they come in from Fairburn Road or Highway 92, come in around to the right side of the building, go around behind the building, and park there in basically what is outlined in red to offload.
Well, the fuel offloads will take place between the canopy and Durley Lane, but they will need that radius to make the full turn.
I understand, okay. Makes
In order,
sense.
yeah, in order to make the full
Yes.
turn that they have, which is
Okay.
a very large radius.
Okay. Questions, comments, anyone? Madam Mayor?
I do
Yes,
have a
go ahead.
question. It's across the street from Walgreens I was just talking about?
Yes, where the Regions Bank has
Yes,
been
sir.
for many years, and then down the street, I think there was a transmission shop
Mm-hmm.
next door.
That's correct.
And now, of course, the bank is closed and the transmission shop is closed. It will be the combination of those two sites.
Okay.
That's
Before
correct.
you get to the pizza on the
That's
other
correct.
side?
Mhm.
Okay.
Going toward the interstate, that's correct.
So isn't a Quick Trip right, like, how far away?
It's on the south side of I-20,
Okay.
about
They could
half
be
a mile
that
away.
close?
Maybe a little bit further,
Three-quarters
but
of a mile
yes.
away.
We've identified the traffic patterns that this would be a favorable location for us just due to the traffic on 92 right now.
Okay, I was just, you said yes, it would be? Okay.
Well, the new road splits off there within the next block.
Uh-huh.
You're on the going home side of the road.
That's correct, yes.
It's a general criteria that
Mm-hmm.
Quick Trips like to.
Even the
to
correct
look at.
terminology, yes, the going home side, yes.
Okay.
Others?
Thank you.
I'll ask one more question. Would this model basically be the same as what you have recently redeveloped on the Chapel Hill Road site?
That's correct, yeah, it'll pretty much
Is
look
that your-
exactly the same, yeah.
Okay. All right. Any question or comment before I open the floor for citizens? Okay. Thank you, Mr. Tarwater. We'll give opportunity for anyone that may have something to say either for or against this application. Would they please come forward?
Evening, Joe Fowler, Post Office Box 49, Douglasville. I represent Douglasville Fairburn Associates. That is the owner of the parcel just to the east of this building. So if you standing at Walgreens and look at the old bank and the Midas place, it's just downhill from there.
The little strip center, Mr.
Yes,
Fowler?
that is. And they're going to have to compete with Quick Trip for pizza, it looks like. They have a storefront, several units there, and that building has suffered ongoing flooding from surface water that flows from essentially the uncontrolled flows just to the west by the Midas Place. I should say formerly Midas Place. The developer has recognized that issue, fortunately, and has made plans for the development that will do three things that our clients appreciate and we believe will solve the problem. So we interpose no objection to the variance. First, curbing will be installed along the property line itself. Secondly, there will be two inlets within the parking lot before the water gets to the curbing, and all of that will be transferred. Those flows will go into the on-site detention that's under the parking lot. And then thirdly, oddly, there are two concrete convex-shaped flumes that direct water off the existing site to the back of our client's building, which has regularly flooded because of that. My client, who is Ralph Edwards, by the way, who's developed in Douglas County for decades, we retained Aaron McCullough, and he's preliminarily looked at the drawings proposed by the developer, and his initial assessment, at least, is that what is proposed will address the problems. Mr. Tarwater has been graciously helpful and cooperative, and we appreciate that, of course. Aaron believes that he'll have a final report tomorrow or Monday, but we may need to speak with their engineer, and he's agreed to do that. We don't think there's going to be an issue. We just need to confirm this, that the projected surface water flows under the appropriate storms can be retained on site. Charlie indicated that that's not something he knows off the top of his head, but we'll connect up tomorrow, and assuming there are no issues, we have no objection to the variance.
Thank you, Mr. Fowler. Just out of curiosity, would that not be a requirement that the Water Sewer Authority would place upon the owner of the property to make
Yeah,
sure
I
the
would think-
hydrology would work?
Yeah, and I don't know what kind of storm, 100-year, 500-year, knows, but we'll get satisfied, and will not appear Monday as long as we've gotten that worked out. So
Thank
I'll
you.
get your card. Thank you.
Others? Anyone else?
Cindy Welch, 3002 Concord Way, Douglasville, Georgia. I have a question about the in and out on Durley Lane. Are they going to be able to make left turns out of there, right there at that intersection? Or if the transport truck comes in, goes around, will he have to come back out on Fairburn Road? because making a left turn that close to that corner is just going to be a nightmare. And if they make a right turn, there's been signs that say no truck traffic on Durley Lane. So, I mean, that's just, Durley Lane in 92 is really crazy. And I can't imagine with those transport trucks trying to make a left turn that close to the intersection. That's all I have.
Thank you, Ms. Welch. I would recall that we at one time, not too many years ago, we had a convenience store with gas pumps to the west where the new car wash is now at that same intersection. And it appears to me that there is an exit along the left rear corner of the property that would exit onto Durley Lane. Is that correct, Mr. Tarwater? That's correct. Okay. Others? Anyone else? Okay, then we will close that portion of the public hearing, and we will meet on Monday to make a decision on this. Thank you all for being here. Item C, consider a proposed amendment to Articles 1, 2, and 6 through 12 of the Unified Development Ordinance, amending various provisions to correct scrivener's errors, clarify approval authority, and provisions regarding the Board of Adjustments and Appeals, and setting factors for granting a waiver of lapse of time requirement for reapplications. Application by the City of Douglasville, Ms. Lynn Woodward. Ms. Woodward?
Thank you, Councilman Adams. This item has come before you a couple of times before, actually. As you recall, we are in the process of revising our UDO. It was meant to be sort of a living document back when it was passed or adopted in 2019. We do need to amend it from time to time and to match our UDO, make sure the UDO and the reality of how the Community Development Department and a City Council operate. So this, you can consider this revision as phase 1, which is mainly focusing on housekeeping items. Like Mr. Adams just stated, it's fixing scrivener's errors, typos, clarifying authority and procedures. I will highlight 3 more of significant or substantive changes that are being proposed. The first significant proposed change is to designate the city engineer as the development official. Previously, we did not, even though the UDO states that the development official has the authority to interpret and to review and approve certain items, development plans, related items, we did not actually have a development official. Now that we have the city engineer who has the technical knowledge and experience in reviewing those drawings and plans, he will be responsible for reviewing those drawings and plans to make sure that they conform to the requirements of the UDO. The second change that I want to highlight is in section 43 of this proposed ordinance.
Can you give us a page number, maybe, Ms. Woodward, so we can look at it? It may be easier for us as far as our what's loaded.
3 of 57.
21?
That's what's coming.
Page 21?
Yeah.
Let me get there. This is section 43.
Okay, that's correct. Page 21.
Okay, section 43 of the ordinance would clarify the standards under which the mayor and council may allow applicants to reapply for certain approvals before the 12-month time lapse requirement. You will recall currently, as it's stated, if a rezoning or zoning application gets defeated by the city council, the time bar is generally 12 months. However, an applicant can come before you all to request a shortening of that time bar to 6 months. But in no event should it be shorter than 6 months. And we are proposing to add into the UDO a certain standard so that you're not just looking at the same plan or proposal or project for a second time. And the standard is really still pretty general. It requires a material change in the plan or the applicant's circumstances that would, in effect, make this project a different project.
So is material identified or defined?
It is not, so that you will have some latitude to decide what is considered material.
Okay.
The third substantive change would be in section 43, and that is page, well, that's still, wait, sorry, section 10. I apologize for jumping around. Section 10 is on page 9. This pertains to banners and festoons that you see businesses put out in front of their sidewalks and whatnot. The proposal does two things. First of all, it's pretty much matching for administrative convenience, because the previous version would require applicants to go to the Community Development Department to frequently apply for permits. But this is easier for our enforcement team to actually oversee. This will be, a business can have a permit to put up festoons for a period of 60 days. And after that expires, they cannot apply for a period of 30 days. And they have to wait for that. And then the other change to the festoons regulation is that we are limiting the number of festoons that a business can have to 2, because this is for concern of public safety and people passing by, cars passing by, so that we don't have an overcrowding of temporary flags. These 3 are the items that I wanted to highlight. I have prepared a memo so that you can kind of read through it. If you have any questions about the items that I just presented, I am happy to address those at this time. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Woodward. Questions, comments? Madam Mayor?
Yes, sir. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you, Ms. Woodward. I did have a question. I'm not certain if it's in section 10 or if it's even addressed, about the individual standing on the corners twirling the signs, or, sitting in a chair and the signs are almost in the right of way.
Those are not considered temporary signs, and we have not regulated that. I think there may be an argument of First Amendment that it is their expression that they can twirl signs.
Okay.
Others?
So it's the first, has it been challenged in any other cities, or?
Not that I know of.
So we can say we don't want them and see if we get challenged?
Well, we
Or
have
just
to.
or have a conversation about it?
We can look into it. The thing is, we do need to make sure that city ordinances are carefully tailored to the city's police powers, and we need to be able to articulate what the harm that the city is trying to prevent against.
Yeah.
But we can look into it.
It's distractive when you're driving, for the signs to be twirling on the corner or whatever else. So
We will
I
look
think just
into
like you're
it.
saying about the flags, and you give them time and then take a break. And even if they're twirling the signs for 30 days, take a break and come back, but just not all the time.
I will look into it. Perhaps the answer is there might need to be a distance between a person's ability to stand there and do distractive things from where they are in the sidewalk versus the right-of-way where cars are passing by.
Right. Not only twirling, but dancing and doing a whole lot with you understand what I'm saying? Thank you.
Others?
Every time I see the word scrivener, for some reason, it makes me think of some scribe way in the recess of City Hall scratching away on parchment with a quill pen. Don't you get that? Where'd that word come from, scrivener?
Any other comments or questions? Would it be appropriate to request that this be placed on the consent agenda? Any problem? Please do that. Thank you. We'll go on to item D then. Reappoint Dennis Conley to the Historic Preservation Commission for a 3-year term expiring January 31st, 2025. I don't see Ms. Jackson. Madam City Manager?
Yes, sir. Ms. Jackson and I were at the Southeast Region ICMA meeting in Atlanta, and she was presenting, so I had to leave at 4:15. I told her I wouldn't beat the traffic, so I will take care of our items tonight. As you all know, Mr. Conley has served for some time on the Historic Preservation Commission, and he wishes to be reappointed. I think most everyone on the council and the mayor know him well. If there are no concerns with him, we're ready to have him reappointed to that commission.
Questions, comments? Are there any term limits that we would be running up against at all on that board?
No, sir.
Okay. If there are no questions or comments, I would ask that this also be placed on the consent agenda. Is that appropriate? I'm assuming he does want to be reappointed. I think you said that, Mr. City Manager.
Yes, sir.
Okay, good. Well, we thank him for his service. And if we could do that, that would be great. Madam Mayor, that's all that we have tonight under Planning and Development.
Thank you so much, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you.
We'll move on. You're welcome. We'll move on then to Public Improvement and Beautification Committee. That's chaired by Councilmember Nicole Miller.
Thank you, Madam Mayor.
You're welcome.
The first item that we have this evening is to authorize the mayor to sign an agreement with Garland DBS for the City Hall roof renovation project. And I believe Ms. Melissa's got some information for us on that.
Yes, ma'am. Melissa Dickinson, 8485 Courthouse Square West, Public Services Department. This item is to replace the front portion of the City Hall roof. The estimate provided by Garland is established under the Master Intergovernmental Cooperative Purchasing Agreement, and the proposed cost is $273,527, and we will be able to use ARPA funds for this project.
Thank you. And my understanding is that we're doing this out of a necessity for sure, that it is probably a little past time to be doing that. I was a little curious because there was such a difference in the prices on here. Do you have any information on why there's such a big gap in those?
I don't, but I can reach out to Garland and get that information for you.
Okay. And that was, I think, the only question that I had on that information given. Do you guys have any questions about this?
Yes, thank you, Ms. Miller. So there are comparative prices that appears in this information, and this would, if this were out for bid, this would have been the least bid. Is that correct?
Correct.
Is that how we did that?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yes.
Just wanted to make sure I understood that. Thank you.
Okay. I don't know. You guys, given the nature, do y'all want to look at this again on Monday? Or are y'all good with the consent agenda? All right, consent agenda it is. Thank you.
Thank you.
And then the next item that we had was to appoint Dwayne Kraus to post 3 of Keep Douglasville Beautiful Board to serve an unexpired term expiring December 31st of 2023. Ms. Hampton, do you have something for us on that?
Yes, ma'am. Just starting the new process where you all agreed to allow a staff committee to interview the candidates to serve on various boards. This candidate has been interviewed by the staff committee, which would include Ms. Jackson as well as Ms. Chan Weeks and a few other staff members. They agreed that he would be a viable candidate for the board, or I should say she would be a viable candidate to the board and is willing to serve.
Perfect. Thank you very much. Did you guys have any questions about this?
I think this was one of the first people we've interviewed who we no longer have to have come in front of council, right? This is that when we changed that? Okay.
Be correct, yes, sir.
Thank you. All right, guys. Are y'all okay with consent agenda? Perfect. Thank you very much. That's all I've got this evening, Madam Mayor.
Thank you so much, Madam Chairman. We'll move on then to the next committee, number 12, which is Public Relations Committee. That's chaired by Councilmember Howard Estes.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Public Relations has no business this evening.
Thank you, sir. We'll move on to Public Safety Committee. The Vice Chair is Councilmember Chris Watts.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I have lost my place here. Okay, there I am. All right, we have several items tonight.
Okay.
Item A is to appoint Daryl Farrar to post 7 of the Douglasville Convention and Conference Center Authority to serve a term expiring June 1st, 2027. Ms. Jackson, of course, isn't here. Is Mr. Bass going to handle this, or Ms. Hampton?
We'll go to Parks. Yes, sir, just similar to the candidate for Keep Douglasville Beautiful. Mr. Farrar has been interviewed by the committee, which would include Jennifer Johnson, as well as Samantha Rosado and Chelsea Jackson. They consider him a well-qualified candidate and is willing to serve.
Okay, thank you. Any questions or comments on this candidate? All right. We'll place that on the consent agenda for Monday. Item B, reappoint Francisco Artley to serve as a Post 4 representative on the city's Parks and Recreation Advisory Board for a term expiring February 15th, 2025. Any feedback? I know he's serving there now. Does anybody have any comments or questions about Mr. Artley for Mr. Bass? All right.
Coach, I
Yes.
would make a comment or question on this. If there were to be a situation where there were an individual that did not need to be reappointed for some reason, would we be told that so that we would at least be informed of what's going on, since we're not doing the interviews ourselves?
You all have the authority to remove those individuals, so we would have to have that discussion with you.
Okay, thank you.
Okay.
And also, excuse me, Chairman Watts, also, if we wanted to be a part of the interview, you send out information prior to the interview, just to let us know when they're interviewing, or?
We can do that.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Chairman Watts.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions? All right, we will place that on the consent agenda for Monday. Item C, reappoint Eric Collins to serve as the Post 10 representative on the city's Parks and Recreation Advisory Board for a term expiring February 15th, 2025. Any questions about this candidate for Mr. Bass, since he works directly with them? No, and that's a reappointment. All right, thank you. So we'll place that, Mr. Collins, on the consent agenda. And then item D, reappoint Sherman Hampton to serve as a Post 13 representative on the city's Parks and Recreation Advisory Board for a term expiring February 15th, 2025. Any questions about this candidate for Mr. Bass? All right, we will place that item on the consent agenda for Monday. Clean sweep there. Everybody's on a consent. All right, Madam Mayor, that's all I had tonight under Recreation, Culture, and Tourism.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Chairman. If you don't mind jumping back up to Public Safety Committee, you're the vice chair. And if you would do that committee as well, I would really appreciate it.
Oh, okay, I didn't even realize that.
It's okay.
Okay, I'm all messed up here.
It's
Did
okay.
is it me, or did we skip around?
You skipped around.
Okay.
But it's okay.
Okay,
We're
all
gonna
right.
get the business taken care of.
Well, it's okay, but when you get to be my age, sometimes you start worrying.
You can do what you want to do.
All right,
Yes, sir.
I'm sorry.
It's no problem.
All right.
Take my committee too if you want.
All right, we have 3 items under public safety tonight. Authorize the mayor, item A, authorize the mayor to sign a memorandum of understanding with the Georgia Emergency Management Agency and authorize the police department to submit an application for a 2022 Georgia Homeland Security Grant to the Georgia Emergency Management Agency and authorize the mayor to sign any related documents for the application or its later acceptance by the city. And Chief Sparks.
Yes, this Homeland Security grant is a no matching fund grant. It's for $322,000. We're looking at purchasing a Lincoln Bearcat. We have one, and it's we purchased it back in 2009, and we having problems with the ballistic windows. We having to replace the windows in that one, and it's costing us pretty fair amount of money. So with this grant, we hope that we can get it, and we can get a newer, up-to-date version of the Bearcat.
Thank you, Chief Sparks. Any questions for Chief on this, Madam Mayor?
I do. Thank you so much, Mr. Vice Chair. Chief Sparks, what does a Bearcat do?
It's a protective vehicle that we utilize in SWAT operations, or you utilize it in hostage rescue. We utilize it in, what we do now in SWAT, you may see a lot of SWAT teams, they hitting houses, but what we do is a surrounding call out. So what we use a Bearcat is to pull up to the house and call the people out, and this Bearcat will have an arm extension, so we need to maybe deploy some gas or open some holes into the house, knock the door in, so it'll be a lot more safety for our officers and the people inside.
Yeah,
and we could use it for, like I said, hostage rescue. We get a situation where an officer or someone is down, they could pull around that person. It's a vehicle that's I think 223s, it'll take up to a automatic weapon firepower. So you can pull around, pull somebody, get them, rescue them, and bring them back. So it's a good vehicle. We bought it in conjunction with the county years ago, using drug funds.
Yes, sir. That's a good deal. And so we're looking at the grant, and then the old one, is it just going to be a backup, or it's going in the auction, or what's going to happen?
No, we're gonna talk with the sheriff department and see, because we paid half, and see if they want to pay us some money and back up out of that, and then we'll have 2 Bearcats for the county. Okay. That one is old, but you can still utilize it.
Okay,
so
sound
that's
like me.
the plan.
Yes, sir. All right, thank you so much. Thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
Vice Chair.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Any other questions for Chief on this? Okay, if it please the council, I would like to place this on the consent agenda for Monday. All right, item B. Nope, goodness gracious. All right, I was still on the other one. Item B, adopt an ordinance to amend the City of Douglasville's alcoholic beverages ordinance to restrict the number of retail package liquor sale licenses that the city may issue. Ms. Woodward.
Thank you, Councilman Watts. This item is in response to the concern of oversaturation of liquor stores in the city. City staff is proposing to limit liquor licenses, issuance of liquor licenses to 1 every 4,000 residents. If and when there is a population increase of 4,000 people, the city may issue 1 additional license. So also, if there are any businesses that are going out of business, so our current number of active licenses are 9 licenses. So if there's a business that ceases to exist and 9 licenses become 8 licenses, that's when the finance department will open up and receive applications again to replenish the number until there are 9 active licenses. Licensees can still transfer their licenses if they sell their business or relocate. The ordinance is designed to not impact liquor license applications that have been submitted as of today. If you have any questions, I would be happy to entertain them.
Madam Mayor.
I do. 9, N-I-N-E?
Yes.
Liquor license in the city of Douglasville?
Yes, ma'am. And Ms. Callen is here. If you have questions on the statistics, she could be able to respond to that.
All the package stores we have in Douglasville, you're saying it's only 9?
This is just for the stores that can sell liquor. There are other malt beverage or wine retail stores. They're different.
Say, I know it's more than 9. It's the grocery stores and all over.
Just hard liquor.
But it's always wine, and that's different than the package store.
Yes.
Boom, I got it.
I have a question.
Yes.
How would this affect applicants that would like to open a brewery?
This does not affect them. This is just for liquor.
Liquor only.
What about a distillery?
Distilleries are actually manufacturers of spirituous beverages, and they are not retailers of liquor.
So then they would not be allowed to sell on premises then?
They actually would be able to, because under our manufacturers of spirituous beverages, they do have, they are allowed to sell what they manufacture on the premises.
This really only applies to retail package stores.
Okay.
That's it.
Your situation is a little bit unique in this. Some of the metro counties, in fact, the majority of metro counties allow liquor by the package. Douglas County doesn't. So we're talking about a city population of 4,000. The reality is, this is the only liquor stores in the county, so your population is going to be more like $15,000 per store. If you look at it in that light, it's hard to argue that you're oversaturated.
Right. We don't, yeah, because we service the entire county, not just the city.
Right.
Yes, and you also serve as part of Carroll County, which doesn't sell the counties. Albany County, I don't think, authorizes. So, yes, if you look at our situation, it's a little unique.
Are there any other cities in the metro area that have this, a similar restriction on the number of package stores per capita?
Carrollton and Noonan both currently have ordinances that regulate the number of licenses that they can issue. This same issue has been discussed in Duluth and Statesboro. I will check and see if anything came out of it and report back on Monday.
I would be curious to know what, if there are other locations, what their ratio is as well per capita.
I will tell you, Mayor Pro Tem, it's different in different locations, not all regulated by population this way. Some set a cap, some set a number, so it's not going to all be the same. What I will tell you is that when some cities were able to, through the recent state legislation, sell a half-package stores, this is the reason why they put a cap on it. We haven't had one. The committee chair suggested that because we were getting several applications, he felt like it was a good idea since this was a similar issue, or I should say a similar condition in other communities. So after talking to the chairman and the mayor, this is why this is being brought forth for you. We don't have issue, but this was a recommendation based on other jurisdictions.
Question.
Is there anyone else?
Yes, I have a comment and a question. First of all, I'm just in general opposed to limiting just about any kind of business for any reason. Obviously, this is coming just because it's liquor. And I understand the concerns of some people in that regard. But I also question if there are currently 9 licenses in the city, but they tend to be in the same general vicinity, and they're not spread out evenly throughout the city limits. And so you may be oversaturated in one neighborhood and like near me, there's nothing. And so I wonder if if the majority of council wants to pursue this, if there might be some other criteria that could be added as far as geographical location or something else to address the differences between the different parts of the city. Thanks.
To that point, many of the stores were established in the 80s and early 90s. We now have a distance limitation, which I believe is 2,500 feet between stores. You could consider simply increasing the distance between any new stores. But for instance, to your point, there's no liquor store in the city south of I-20. And out in Tributary, for instance, you've now approved a tremendous number of new rooftops, so to speak. So you could probably point to an area that might have a need for a store. There's certainly other ways you can limit the number of stores without picking a magic number.
Mr. Chair, one other question. I guess, we currently now have 9 package stores citywide. How long has it been, how long have we been at that number of 9? Or at least for, maybe I always ask this, what is the trend over the, say, the last 10 or 20 years in terms of the number? Have we been adding on one at a time gradually that's sort of been in
That's not,
tracking the population, or has it been a burst of them in the last 2-3 years?
that's not something we've tracked. I mean, we can give you the dates of when these package stores originally received their license, but it's not something that we've tracked, how often you all received a request.
The newest stores you've been were down on Thornton Road. You've been those in the past year.
That's what.
Previous to that, the newest one would have been the Douglasville Boulevard, well, the Highway 5 extension that was originally built by Larry Jackson. Prior to that, there really hasn't been any.
There's one on 92 on the north side.
I would make an argument that
Did any of those replace a liquor store that had closed? I guess that would be, so I'm kind of curious to see, is like, what's the trend been in terms of liquor stores opening? Has it followed the trend of population growth, or has it been sort of plateaued for a while?
I only know of one that's ever closed.
Yeah.
Mayor Pro
One
Tem.
on 92 that closed, but it was largely due to the fact that the highway got wide, and you took away the parking lot. But I don't, you know, the Big Oak package store's been there for over 40 years.
I would argue that since I've been on the council, I'm in the middle of my second term, we've approved as a council 5 liquor stores since I've been on the council.
So that would mean that there were 4 in the city for quite a number of years.
And I could be wrong about that number, but I'm not off by more than 1. But I also would like to ask a question, and I've asked this before, I don't know that I've ever got a clear answer, why the county? See, we have a concentration of 9 in the city limits, and as Mr. Dotson pointed out, they're all north of I-20, but, you know, short of some type of limiting like we're talking about, we've already got applications coming to the city. It sounds like at some point, I understand what Council Member Estes is saying about limiting any type of business, but I also would like to ask the council, you know, as we are part of developing the city of Douglasville, how do we want to develop it? And how many liquor stores, how many, and you name the business, do we want that represents the city of Douglasville?
Chief, did you have something?
No, I was just listening. I was just stating that is the new liquor store on Highway 92, and the one south is Mike's. That's south of I-20. Yeah, so
South
that's
of
the
I-20.
only one going south toward.
Well, actually, Harbor Place Beverage is south of 20, and there's one on Highway 5 that's also
Well,
south of
off
20.
92, going back toward
Paulding.
Estes is
Oh, yeah, no,
Mike's liquor store, and once you pass Mike's, there's no liquor store.
I think Councilman Adams had a question.
No, it would seem to me that just as with any other business, you are going to have a natural saturation point where you're going to see that adding them is not going to be profitable for that business to exist. I'm not necessarily for limiting, as Mr. Estes says, for limiting any particular business, but there's not an issue with me providing any income to any of the liquor stores. I don't partake in any way and don't care to. But at the same time, I think the geographic situation, of course, you have 2 that are coming up in the Thornton Road area, that general area, if they do go forward. And I understand, I saw one of them this week, the property was being cleared, so I'm assuming that one's going forward. It seems to me that you would potentially create what I have been told in the city, in New York City, where you have a token or a coupon or a coin to own a taxi cab. And you may create that into where the value of having the opportunity to have the liquor store is in the fact that I can replace one or I can buy that token and then therefore it entitles me to have a liquor store. I don't have a problem with limiting them, but I just don't know that that's that's necessarily the way we want to do it according to population, because I think it is naturally being limited by that already.
What we can do, Mr. Co-Chair, is come back in 2 weeks with a drafted ordinance that takes in consideration some reasonable distance requirement. We can come back with that in 2 weeks. It'll probably take us a little bit of time, because what we need to do is get with GIS to do some mapping so we can put in place where the current package stores are already located. And we can come back in 2 weeks on that.
But what is the current distance requirement now? There is a current.
25.
2,500?
Yes.
Yes, sir. And last thing I was going to say,
Yes,
Mr.
ma'am.
Co-Chair, is that as Councilman Adams was speaking, and I thought about this earlier, and the chief can validate, it's just like bail bondsman facilities. We only have so many based on the population in the city and the county. And so if there's another bail bondsman that wants to come in and open that business, it's based on how many we have, and the sheriff will allow that person to apply if one does not, if they give up their license or they go out of business. But you just can't have bail bondsmen all over the place. It's based on population. So this would not be something that's discrimination towards liquor stores or alcohol license. It's just trying to limit or manage certain types of businesses. And that's all I had to say. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Any other questions? So per Ms. Hampton's recommendation, we'll wait a couple weeks, and they'll come back to us with some type of proposal. We'll take a look at it at that time. All right. Thank you. All right, we have one last item. Adopt an ordinance to amend City of Douglasville's fire prevention and protection ordinances to authorize Douglas County Fire Department to enforce the standard fire prevention code and the life safety code, and to regulate open burning in the city. And I believe Ms. Woodward, no?
Yes. Thank you, Chairman Watts. As you all may know, Judge Rollins swore Douglas County Fire Department in a couple of weeks ago to basically authorize them to enforce the city's fire prevention code. This exercise is to make sure that our ordinance actually allows the Douglas County Fire Department to do what they've been sworn in to do. And also to make appropriate updates, because the last time the fire prevention code was updated was in 2004. So the changes made is that we currently do not have a fire official or a Bureau of Fire Prevention, so all enforcement responsibilities, we are placing it on the fire chief and his designees. The second change that we have is to add regulations regarding open burning in the city. This would regulate the time of the year and the manner in which open burning may be conducted, and would also require a permit to do so. The third change compared to the original ordinance is the firefighting accessibility. The changes added specific dimensions. The old version did have requirements of buildings and roads to provide firefighting accessibility, but they were in very general terms and only had like 3 sentences. We have borrowed the code from Douglas County. They provide more specifications, such as the height of the building and the width of access roads that new constructions need to have. And essentially, this is actually items that development plans that come through the city already perform or have, because the fire department is actually one of our partners in our development plan review team, and they have required new developments to conform to Douglas County's code, and we're just adopting that for uniformity. Fire Chief is here with us, so if you all have any questions that I can't answer, I will defer to Fire Chief. Thank you.
Mr. Mayor Pro Tem, did you have something?
I do, thank you, Mr. Chair.
Fire Chief Jolivet, come on up.
And this question actually may or may not be germane to the main point that Ms. Woodward is making, but but since you've got the code pulled up as part of our background, I did notice into Section 7, which discusses sprinkler systems. And it mentions about the historic district, and I'm not sure, and maybe I'm misreading it and I'm not understanding this properly, but the language seems to imply that sprinkler systems are not required within the historic district. But my question then is, does that mean only for historic buildings or any construction that occurs within the historic district?
That is existing buildings in the historic district, and the actual change to that is because
It's on page.
I believe it might have referenced Title 26 in the past, but that was Article 26 was eliminated when we adopted the UDO. So I do have to go back and amend the historic preservation chapter to pull back in their building codes.
I think the language, though, needs to be looked at a little more carefully, just because I think to me, it seems a little unclear as to whether or not it's including new construction as well as, I think you could interpret it and say, well, it says anything in the historic district is not requiring a sprinkler, so I'm building a new building and I don't have to put a sprinkler in it.
It does. It says, as a further exception for buildings located within the historic district lining south of Broad Street, Spring Street, Club Drive, Duncan. So they're saying you don't have to have a sprinkler system.
You read it the same way.
Lynn, you can go back and look, but that was in the code, that those buildings did not require a sprinkler system in the historic district.
Yeah, because they don't have them because they're old.
And I understand the reason for not requiring it in historic buildings, but I would assume you want the current sprinkler code to apply to new buildings, and this seems to be given an exception to anything that's in the historic district.
It may not be worded correctly, but it's been applied to existing buildings, so we can go ahead and add that language, but that's how it's been applied.
Okay. Thank you.
Madam Mayor, did you have something?
Thank you so much, Mr.
Yes,
Chairman. Good to see you, Chief Joe Levette. He's looking sharp, always have his uniform on, looking like he's ready. You can't mistake who a fire chief is when you walk in the room. Open burning, is that leaves or just anything?
Mainly it's leaves and things like tree limbs and things that's on the property. Anything other than that, solid materials.
Yes, sir.
They can't be burned. So mainly it's leaves, limbs, things that grow on the property.
So we'll have a time frame where we can burn them, but like at fall or something, when people are cleaning up their yards, but any other time, is that what we're going to do, Ms. Woodward? Put a time frame on it and like a time of day?
Mainly October.
April through October and after 10 a.m. and before sometime during the evening.
Yeah, 1 hour before sunset.
Okay. And the other thing, Fire Chief, and it was mentioned, I think, I can't remember if Councilman Adams or Councilman Watts talked about sprinkler systems or Mayor Pro Tem and firewalls and construction and exits and all of that. So with our service delivery, of course, the City Council, we have a service delivery agreement with the county and in order to have fire services. So we appreciate everything that you do for us to help us and keep us safe. And you do more than fight fires and get cats out of trees. You do a lot of things, so.
You still get cats out of trees?
You don't get cats out of trees. Thanks, Fire Chief. That's all I have.
Any other questions for Chief or Ms. Woodward? Okay, is this something that we need to?
Thank you, Fire Chief.
Anybody? There's a lot of stuff in there. If over the weekend so we'll just bring this back on Monday. Okay. Thank you, Chief. And Madam Mayor, that is the last item under public safety.
Thank you so much for handling those two committees. We'll go to our last committee that has an agenda item, which is Technology Committee. That's chaired by Mayor Pro Tem Terry Miller.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. We have
You're
one
welcome.
item under the Technology Committee tonight, and that is to adopt a lessee resolution and authorize the mayor to sign a lease purchase agreement, software license agreement, and other documents with Motorola Solutions, Inc. for the city's acquisition of equipment and software in connection with portable and mobile radio upgrades. I believe Chief Sparks is going to fill us in on that.
Yes, Madam Mayor and Council, the purpose of this lease is Motorola is going to end of life on certain portable handheld and mobile vehicle radios, which we have. And we have many of them in service. We have 52 portable, and we have 134 mobile radios that will be replaced. So we were able to secure a great rate with Motorola as we are part of the COB radio system. So we was able to get a good cost. So this lease is for 3 years, interest-free. The cost is $308,240.46 per year, for a total cost of $924,721.39. So our first payment will be in March 1st, 2023. We will be able to purchase the radios as soon as the agreement is approved, and we will own the radios. As part of this upgrade, Motorola is in technology every 2 or 3, well, let's give them 5 or 6 years, it's coming with an upgrade. So as part of this upgrade, these radios will have encryption added as part of the upgrade. Well, people just can't be able to hear us, so our officers will be able to communicate on a secure talk group. Right now, it's not really secure. You can get a 800 radio system and listen to what we're talking about, but these radios will be encrypted. We'll be able to talk with the Douglas County and Cobb County. Douglas County, they just upgraded their system. They have encrypted system, so we'll be able to communicate with them as well as Cobb. Cobb will go live with their inscriptions system in July, and we will have more information on that. But the radios that will not be replaced, and we'll be able to have our handhelds and our in-car radios encrypted. So it's just a technology thing that we embedded with Motorola. You know, we've been had Motorola. I've been here 30, long time, and we just been had Motorola all the while. So when they say something got to be done, then it is what it is. So
They have monopoly.
Chief, you say these will be encrypted. Does that mean that people won't be able to listen in on their police scanners anymore?
yes.
Interesting. Okay. You're going to take part of your fan base away. You realize?
I know it. But we go to talk groups, but there may be certain talk groups that we can get on the system. But when we get onto a secure talk group, especially, you know, you're doing SWAT things, the special operation guys doing undercover operations, they could talk and don't have to worry about people listening in.
Gotcha. Any questions or comments from anyone else on council? Coach, you were about to say something. Okay. All right. This seems to be pretty uncontroversial. If there's no objection, I'd like to put this onto the consent agenda for Monday. Thank you, Madam Mayor. We have no other business tonight under the Technology Committee.
Thank you so much, Mr. Mayor Pro Tem. We'll move on then to our last committee, which is Transportation Committee, chaired by Councilmember Dr. LaShun Danley.
No business tonight, Madam Mayor. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Yes, ma'am.
Do we have any other business to come before council tonight from the elected body? I don't see any. We'll go on then to our updates from city staff, our city attorney, Mr. Joel Dodson.
No business, Madam Mayor.
Thank you, sir. Our staff attorney, Ms. Lynn Woodward.
No business, Madam Mayor.
Thank you. Our chief of police, Chief Gary Sparks.
Yes, Madam Mayor. We are starting our Youth Against Violence program this Saturday, and then it's for young people from 13 to, I guess, now 20. it's a free program that we've been running for over 13 years, so we'll be going back and getting that started. It's an 8-week program. And also we have a job fair coming up on the 14th of March. So if you're looking for a job and you want to get your kid this information, come out of the police department, give us a call.
Youth Against Violence is at the municipal?
Yes.
I mean, the...
Yes, ma'am. Municipal Court Building, 2083 Fairburn Road, Douglasville.
And the time is 10 o'clock?
10 to 2.
10 to 2.
And we have lunch.
Yes, sir.
You gonna come get lunch? Yeah.
Thanks, Chief. Our city manager, Ms. Marsha Hampton.
No business, Madam Mayor.
What? Okay. Comments from citizens and delegates. If you sustain the meeting, you'd like to address us, please come forward. Yes, ma'am, and give us your name and address for the record, and we'll be happy to hear from you from any business that's germane to the city of Douglasville.
Cindy Welch, 3002 Concord Way, Douglasville.
Yes, ma'am.
Sometime last year, you all rezoned property at Reservoir Drive and Arbor Place Boulevard for the high-rise storage units. And I think at that time, the only driveway they were to have was out on Reservoir Drive, which then goes out and hits Arbor Place Boulevard. Because of the driveway, I think, across from Wells Fargo and that. Well, I went by there last week. There is now a driveway coming directly out from their property onto Arbor Place Boulevard. They also have a driveway, like they were supposed to, on Reservoir Drive. The problem with the driveway coming out on Arbor Place Boulevard is there's a driveway coming from that shopping area where Johnny's and, you know, Nothing But Cake, all that is. There's a driveway there. And the driveway to the storage units is lucky if it's 20 inches apart. And I can see, and I see people, and I've done it, come out of that driveway, and I'm making a left turn to go on down to the roundabout and go to the mall and, you know, that. If somebody's doing that, somebody's coming out of that driveway from the storage units and making a right turn, it's going to be a mess. But I went back and looked at my notes, and I thought that they would only have the driveway onto Reservoir Drive and Reservoir Drive to Arbor Place. There wouldn't be a new driveway onto Arbor Place Boulevard. So,
Thank you. Yes, ma'am. Thank you, Ms. Welch, and city manager will certain to follow up. Thank you for bringing it to our attention.
That may be I don't know, I haven't seen it, but that may be a temporary construction.
Yeah, I was thinking that too. Could be temporary construction. Yes, sir. Any other business to come before the city? Yes, sir. Please give us your name and address for the record. You have 5 minutes.
Okay.
Good
My
evening.
name is Bryan Shannon. I'm a small business owner. I've talked to a few of you before, but I own a barbershop.
Yes, sir.
Dynasty Barbershop. And one thing that's near and dear to my heart, which I'll go over, but you wanted my address, right?
Yes, sir. Name and address for the record. I know you're at the barbershop. But you
Yep. It's 831 Spring Creek Way, Douglasville, Georgia. I've been out here about 10 years, but a problem that I think is happening in Douglasville is actually the homeless problem that's going on in Douglasville. I don't know if you guys know anything about it, but I've actually been going into the woods and actually talking to people. And I actually have a young lady named Myra Stewart with me today that unfortunately is with a lot of those people. But I think there's a disconnect with the city, basically just different programs. It's not getting to the people, where people that live in the woods, they're not knowing where to go, what to do, or even have the right structure, such as a lot of people out there for mental health. And basically what's starting to happen is we're just rounding them up and sending them to jail or telling them to leave the woods without a plan. And maybe, because this is my first time here, so maybe I don't know all of the plans, but there's a disconnect from here to the streets. So I run a nonprofit called The Dynasty's Destiny, and really I'm just trying to see what I can do to bridge that gap, to kind of be like a liaison between council. I've had discussions with the sheriff. I've made calls to you, Madam Mayor, and I've talked to Nicole Miller before. I think with Douglasville, we have a problem that we have to addressed pretty soon, because these people are living behind Family Dollar, behind Kroger, on Hospital Drive, Kroger on Highway 5, behind the Martins, and there's men, women, and children out there. Now, Miss Leanne runs a program where she has behind the courthouse, and that's the only sanctioned area, but there's a lot more homeless people out here than just what Miss Leanne can handle. She can only handle, I think, like 20 people, and her and Judge McClain, they've been doing great work, but I think there needs to be some more that's done, because there's more people out here. And to be honest, I've had people that live behind my barbershop, and they've actually froze to death over this, over the wintertime.
Yeah.
And there's more stories like that, but I don't think those stories make it here. So if everybody could possibly help me and direct me in the right direction to just try to bridge that gap and help.
Yes, sir. Thank you so much. Our city manager will talk to you. I know we do have a liaison with the Community Services Board. That's not a program that the city elected body can actually take. It's not part of our purview, but we do connect with Community Services Board and other agencies and entities to help our citizens that are unfortunately are homeless. So our city manager can give you some information as far as that's concerned.
Okay.
Yes,
Thank
sir.
you so much.
You're welcome. Thank you. Any other comments from citizens and delegates? Oh, yes, ma'am. Please come forward and give us your name and address for the record. And you have 5 minutes to address us.
My name is Myra Stewart, and I'm actually homeless.
Yes, ma'am.
Why is nobody coming up with like no programs, no kind of place for other people to go? Y'all have a campsite for sex offenders. Okay? Sex offenders. Who have hurt other people, not just at the moment, but for the rest of their life.
Yes, ma'am.
You know what I'm saying? For the rest of their life, they have hurt that person. They got lots of luxury over there. That's not right. You got people walking around here that can be rehabilitated in some way, fashion, or form. Sometimes I could promise you, it just takes a man like that right there to come and talk to you. Because that was all it took for me. Everybody's worried about all the wrong things.
Yeah.
They're not worried about the people out here that are dying in the cold, who have nobody except for maybe another homeless person. I go out here, I started this mission a long time ago, and I'm not done, and I'm not going to quit. I will stay on it until God takes me out of this world to help these people because they need it. Can I ask y'all a question? Has any of y'all bothered to go out in this world and see any homeless people? Or stop, just talk to somebody walking down the road, whether they're homeless or not, to even ask them, what can I do to help you? What could it take to help you? Not everybody is the same. It don't always take a white coat to help somebody. Somebody, it takes a facility where they feel at home and at ease. And that's all it would take. Get them out in the world. Open up a center for them with computers. A regular person like me. You know what I'm saying? Because sometimes that's all it takes, to be honest with you. You know what I'm saying? You got to have a college degree to sit down and have one-on-one and get through to somebody. I promise you don't. Closed eyes lead to a closed mind, a closed heart, and closed soul. Until we open our eyes, we are never going to truly see what God intended for us to see or know. You can't help somebody if you don't know how. If you don't know how, find somebody that does. Even if they are a regular person, you'd be surprised what you could accomplish.
Yes, ma'am.
But somebody besides just me and Mr. Javon here need to care. And from what I'm seeing, I'm not seeing too many folks that care about other people. They care about everything else that doesn't matter. It's people that matter.
Yes,
Not
ma'am.
material things, not stores. People's lost touch with reality. Reality is true people. Y'all can give to the people that's hurt somebody else for the rest of their lives. You got people like me and others that can be helped. You just got to do it.
Yes, ma'am. Well, thank you. We appreciate your comments. We do have a warming station at the police department when it gets to a certain degrees outside, and the chief can pass that information on, again, to our barber and others in this community. So, yes, sir. And so we pick up some of our citizens, unfortunately. I'm sorry for you in that situation, and we'll continue to pray and do what we can as a community to support each other, because we're all in this together. Yes, ma'am. Any other comments? Citizens, delegates? If not, not having any other business, and this meeting is adjourned.